Today I wanted to talk to you about a nonfiction book, Our Kind of People. This is a nonfiction book about the Black upper class. And I was informed about this book several years ago by my sister. She told me about it and I thought it sounded very interesting. And I read it and I learned so much. I never really gave the Black upper class a lot of thought. One reason why: I was raised in an all-white area. I've mentioned this in other videos. I was the only African-American female in my high school graduating class. No, I'm not an upper-class person. I was raised in a middle-class household. When Black people talk about the way they've been raised and about light skin, dark skin, hair, whatever, that wasn't my experience being raised in an all-white area, because white people don't really talk about stuff like that to me. So anyway, when I saw this book, I learned a lot about being Black and having money, because a lot of the organizations that are mentioned in this book were not familiar to me because they weren't available in the area that I was raised in. So as you see, I took all kinds of notes. I have stuff. I have little markings throughout the book, things I thought were interesting. I thought it was interesting that for the Black upper class, the author does outline how that started back during slavery, where you have the slaves in the fields and then you've got the slaves that are in the house. The slaves in the house just had better accommodations and access to better food, and they even had access to some education at times. So this disparity was the beginning of the Black upper class. So you had the people in the house, a lot of times they might be lighter than the field people. Not always, but a lot of times they were, because a lot of times they were the offspring of the master, because he might be sleeping with them. So the people in the house, since this disparity was actually created, they think that they are better. They'll act better and think that they are better than the slave hands. And that was kind of like where the Black upper class kind of began. Another thing he did go through was Black African-American groups that were formed throughout the years. Now, the ones that I was familiar with the fraternities and sororities, because they have Black fraternities and sororities in college. Now, that was my first introduction to the Black fraternities and sororities. Like I said, my parents, they did not go to college, so I was not introduced to that sort of thing growing up. But I didn't consider it a class thing. I noticed that you had to pledge. When you did pledge, there was a process and you showed interest and everything, but I didn't consider that as a class. But apparently it is. So that was interesting. So just Google African-American fraternities and sororities if you want to know more about that. I myself am not affiliated with any of them, but I'm just saying it's very interesting. And some other groups that he outlined was Jack and Jill. And I had kind of heard about that as an adult. Some people had mentioned it to me. So, the Boulé, that was another group. The Lynx. And he also went through different social groups that might even be in different regions. So there were different cities that he focused on with history for the upper class, as well as these groups. And some of the cities that he outlined were Chicago, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and there were some others in there as well. And he also mentioned Black vacation spots. And the reason why these Black vacation spots were created was because the upper level, Black people who actually had money, they weren't allowed to stay at the white resorts and that sort of thing. So they had to make their own places to go to. He was saying it creates a chasm, a divide between upper, and lower class blacks. And then what I found the most interesting in the book was the end. It was about blacks passing as white. Now, I was familiar with this. I saw a movie. Oh my goodness, because I don't have this down in my notes, but it's something I saw a long time ago. It's classic. It's about a black woman and her daughter looks white. Most of you will probably, if you're my age, you'll know what movie I'm talking about. But I don't remember the name of it, but I'm sure I'll put the link in. I'll put the name of it in the comments. But I was familiar with black people passing as white. So what I did learn in his book was that there are black people who actually divorce themselves from their family. Like they live a life as a white person and they have nothing to do with their family. And he has outlined all the steps you need to take to divorce your family and start living as a white person. He even has, as one of the steps that you take, it's recommended that you not have any biological children because they could be throwbacks. It could be somebody who turns out dark. So it was recommended that you adopt a white child and say that you have maybe Italian or some kind of you might have some kind of relatives or some kind of lineage from like a darker, somebody who has olive complexion, like the Mediterranean or something. And that is what he recommended that you do in order to pass as white. And don't socialize with any black people at all, because if you do and you're photographed with them, your features will, if you have like a wide nose or thick lips, it might be emphasized if you're around other black people. So it's better to separate completely. And he even had examples of families where this happened, where there were parents who had not seen their kids in decades because the kid is now living as a white person and doesn't have anything to do with them. That is so sad. So check this out. If you want to know more about the black upper class, this book is a must read. And if there's anything in there that you find interesting, kind of do like I did, put the tabs on the pages and kind of look it up and see what you can find out about it. And if you like black history, check out my historicals. I've got two. The Baker's Bride, which takes place during the abolitionist movement during the Underground Railroad. It's about a slave who's manumitted, meaning that she was freed. Her master freed her upon his death. She relocates to Philadelphia and starts working at a bakery, and she assists with the Underground Railroad. This is one of the strongest books I've written, and it's gotten so many good reviews and ratings on Amazon. Just look it up and you'll see what I'm talking about. So you should check out The Baker's Bride by me, Cecilia Dowdy. And also check out The Doctor's Bride. Check out The Doctor's Bride by me, and it's about an African-American woman who wants to go to college to get a degree, because back then black women did not go to college as much as they do in modern times, of course. And it tells about her struggles, and with both of the stories, they are romances, so there's a romance in there. So both of them are novellas, and you can read them a nice leisurely afternoon. You'll enjoy them, and so will your, some of your friends, church groups. All of my books are all wholesome. So your teenagers can read them. You can read them with your church group, read them with your book club. But even though they are clean, they do have good emotional stories attached to them, because you can just go to Amazon and look me up. I've got countless reviews. The stories are good, and you'll always remember them. Thanks for watching this video in its entirety, and I hope you have a wonderful day.